So welcome to the Lawyer Business Podcast. And I am Greg McFarlane, and with me is...
Vanya the Oracle, a.k.a. Vanya the Paralegal.
Okay. All right, wonderful. The wonderful Vanya is going to be my co-host, antagonist extraordinaire. Somebody here to keep me honest, as it were. And the podcast is really about lawyer business. So I don't know if many might know, maybe you don't know, but there's a song back in Jamaica, and it's a kind of a sentiment that people still carry today, which is like, you know, Jamaican people don't like to deal with the lawyer business, which means like if them don't want to do no court business, they don't want to do no lawyer business, they just want to go about them life in peace without having to get like an attorney and deal with certain things. But really, when you come up to the United States, the reality is that a lawyer has become very useful, especially if you use them early. The earlier you get them, the better the chances are. So as an attorney who came up, growing up in Jamaica, I just wanted to give people an opportunity to get that perspective of like, accident in Jamaica is like, who gonna fix my car, right? But accident up here is who gonna fix my car. And then when your back start hurt you, later on, you're like, I'm gonna get old. But really and truly, when the medical bills them start hit you and you realize I've got to pay for this, and then I talk about surgery and all that, and you're like, well, I feel like I should be compensated. Might be a bit late. So, one of the fundamental things, you have to stand up for your rights in this country. If you don't stand up for your rights, you're gonna lose them.
All right. Well, speaking of rights, it's spring break season here in Florida.
It is.
This
Cheers.
episode, cheers. This episode's theme is about driving or / operating heavy machinery while twisted. So,
all right.
yeah,
Well,
stay
first
tuned
of all,
for some tips from me and some tips from him.
Hold on. What is twisted? Let's get that straight first. What do you mean to be
because
twisted?
driving under the influence could be,
Okay.
it can be weed, right? Or it can be alcohol, or it could be some other things.
That is exactly right. In fact, this is how you have to think about it. They don't necessarily have to prove exactly what you're on at that moment. They only have to say, well, you are intoxicated to the extent, this is lawyer speak now, to the extent that your normal faculties are impaired. So, if you can do the normal things, then maybe normal faculties aren't impaired. And we're going to talk about DUI and how that works, especially as it turns to normal faculties. Okay. But yes, so twisted. So, to answer your thing now, weed, that can make you twisted, a.k.a. DUI. Pills, DUI. Alcohol, DUI. Anything that can impact your ability. And there's a question, I wouldn't chance it, but absolutely, if the drug or substance that you're on is in fact illegal, almost guaranteed going to be DUI. If it is legal,
that's if they know you're on something.
Probably also.
You can probably hide it.
All right, so this is this is why we have the Lawyer Business Podcast.
I mean, but if you're drunk, that's something else. I feel like when you're drunk, that's like, I don't know.
All right, so my job is to make sure you don't get yourself into trouble. And
yes.
If you do, how steps to take to kind of lessen the damage that happened.
Yes.
All right, so is there anything you want to know, since it's spring break season, anything you want to know about this DUI thing? Any tips? I mean, I have some things I want to go into, but, I'll give you the chance to ask me first.
Well, you go first because, I haven't really thought of anything specific yet.
All right, no worries.
I have stories, though, but...
Oh, we're going to get into those.
Yeah.
All right, so DUI. Here are some things that I'm going to tell you just to avoid the idea of a DUI completely. Number one, some fundamentals. Keep your car clean. Keep your car clean. It's a very simple thing. Clean car, especially the interior. Clean, organized, have your registration where it's supposed to be, if it's going to be kept in the car, or easy access if you can keep it on you. Have your insurance information, same kind of business, make sure you have it close by, and make sure the car clean. Do not have a whole bunch of things inside the car fling down all over the car, because guess what? I've read a lot of police reports for people I've represented where the police officer put messy interior, and that probably tell me say them drunk.
I feel personally attacked.
We have
Just
to probably
kidding.
have a talk. All right. I mean, listen, if we need to
No,
sort
I'm
out a
not kidding.
detailing situation for the car.
Well, it's like every time I get it clean, it immediately gets dirty because I have, 2 little ones.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel you.
And they just trash it.
Well, in that case, I mean, real life happens anyway. But what I'd say to you is that the best thing that you can do is to make sure, at the very minimum, license, registration, insurance, easy accessible. You don't have to look for it. You know exactly where it is, and you can get to it in case you are stopped, right? You don't want to be searching all over the car for it. All right.
Right.
So that's one easy way to kind of avoid a DUI altogether. The other thing is, what you really want to do is to practice the idea of driving within the speed limit and obeying all road codes, so all traffic rules. Have a habit of doing that.
Always stop at the stop sign.
Stay within
Don't
the speed
roll
limit.
through it.
Exactly. All of those things, because the truth is, if you have a habit for doing those things, when you're not thinking about it, you'll probably drive in that same
Because
manner.
when you're lit, your brain goes on autopilot.
I'm so concerned about you.
just
Yes,
saying.
when you're lit, your brain may go into autopilot, but also before you even get to the lit status, because you shouldn't be driving if you were lit.
Wink,
But
wink.
Don't
Yeah,
do it.
don't do it. Yeah.
There's more than one reason why you shouldn't do it. But before you get to the lit status, it's Friday, you're enjoying yourself. You're not really thinking about the driving. As most people not really actively thinking about how they're driving. But if you have a habit of coming to a full stop at that stop sign or that stop line, really, or if you have a habit of always using the indicator, if you have a habit of staying within the speed limit, most likely that's how you're going to drive. And if you drive like that, then guess what? Most likely, you're not going to get stopped. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, a lot of police officers don't necessarily want to ruin your night. They might they might want to make some overtime still. But more time, they might not really want to ruin your night. But if you come through like a big a-hole now going 90 miles per hour in the 30 mile per hour zone, what do you want them to do? None of them have to stop you. And they probably want to take you to jail, whether they DUI or not. Because what kind of person does that?
Yep.
So just have that habit. And speaking of registration and insurance, make sure everything valid, brethren. Don't be riding dirty. Like that is, They know you give them a reason.
Avoid that.
Lord, no, come out of the car. You know what I mean? What's that? What's that? A smell? You have a prescription for that? All of these problems start to happen now because you riding dirty. Just don't do it. Don't do it, because all of those things, like I'm going to tell you, you know how many DUIs have represented people with a driving license suspended at the same time? You know how much?
Oh yeah.
I was almost like 70%.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So listen,
Happens to the best of us.
if your license not good, Bridget, I beg you, don't drink. Because I have to tell you, the other side of the thing what people don't think about with DUI, and talk briefly, is just what happened when DUI and you cause major injury to somebody now. And then that person go call one lawyer.
That's the double whammy. Yeah.
There's a thing called punitive damages. And in Florida, for example, you can't just get it. You can't just be like, yo, I'm going to sue you for punitive damages. No, you can't just do that. You have to have a basis to do it. You have to follow a rule, a statute, actually. And there's certain criteria under which you can get punitive damages. I assure you, if the person who caused the injury is DUI, it's almost a slam dunk that you will get punitive damages when you file that lawsuit. Almost. Nothing's really 100% guaranteed, but that one's a pretty good bet if I was a betting person. So you're not just going to lose what you have in. In other words, don't drink and drive, ladies and gentlemen, especially now. Because remember, it's still a jury going to decide this, and everybody knows that Uber exists, and everybody knows that Lyft exists, and everybody going to be looking at you being like, say you went to Wynwood until 3 o'clock in the morning,
And you decided to drive back.
because I only had 2 beers. Wink, wink. But I guess you're on autopilot when you're lit, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right. So that's what one thing I want to think about here. But I want to ask you, what things you might not have realized My impact.
Well, okay. Well, when I was younger, when I first moved out here, my cousins just always with the open container, like always, and we were always just be like making drinks in the car, and they would always be like an open bottle in the car when we're on the way to a party, like. And as I got older and more responsible, whatever, became a mom, things like that. You think about, you're like, I could have. Who knows? Whatever. We all would have went to jail or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, stupid things like that. Open
Your life
container.
was so lit. I'm just saying.
Well, it's just like normal things. I don't know. I feel like it was just like, I don't know.
That was the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, listen, I ain't hating.
That was like 10 years ago.
All right, but that's a good point. Well, that's interesting to bring up. But home container is also something that can land you a DUI easy when you don't really have to. So just don't do it. I will tell you, home container by itself isn't actually a DUI. Home container is just that. It's a home container. So
can you have an open a bottle in your car, like
an open bottle?
Yeah, like on your way to whatever. Yeah. No, right?
I mean, no, it's still a crime.
Yeah.
It's a crime, and it's like a. If it's a misdemeanor, it's probably a second-degree misdemeanor. I'm almost sure. I don't think it's a first degree. It might even just be a county ordinance violation. It's a low on the totem pole, but the problem is, if you get a DUI, they definitely mention in that half glass of scotch that you have in the cup holder right in front of you.
That looks really bad.
Yeah, it does not look good.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing now. I've talked a lot about like how DUI and don't drink and all of these things and all these ways to avoid it. Drive the speed limit, take a Uber. Don't put yourself in jeopardy. Enjoy your life, because I'll tell you something. The majority of the people that I've represented, at this point in my career, the majority of people I've represented for DUI have never had a DUI in their life.
Okay.
And that means in large part, they've never been to jail before. And in case you didn't know, jail can be pretty traumatic. Like, I mean, you figure.
Do tell.
You figure, you ever wonder what happened to you what happened, like what really happened if you go to jail? Like, people might not even know. So let me tell you from actually beginning, let's set the base.
Everything that you love is just gone. There's no doors. There's no, like, people got to watch you use the bathroom and stuff. Like,
have you? No,
I don't know.
I don't think so. The way you make it sound, sounds strangely worse. But
like, there's no like private bathrooms. Like, you're in your like cell. Or
I mean, it's semi-private. All right, so.
Semi-private.
But let me tell you.
Private. Okay.
Let me tell you from the perspective of like what actually happens, like from the moment the cop pull you over to the moment you actually get released on a bond or a bond hearing, or because people don't know. So maybe by knowing it might lessen the just in case it happens to you, you can at least know what's going to happen. Okay. First of all, it's usually going to sound like this. Stand up, put your hands behind your back. You're being arrested. That's the first thing that most people are going to hear. That's when you know. When they say put your hands behind your back. And I cannot imagine, but I can imagine that it would be not going to be a good feeling when that happens. So what's going to happen next? Well, the first thing I want you to think about if somebody tells you that is like, well, I ain't saying shit. No, I ain't saying shit about, if I even said anything before, I definitely not talking about nothing about anything now, because I know I'm under arrest. I'm under arrest. And the one thing you're not going to do is help them to convict you. These people, police officers, who are now putting the handcuffs on and squeezing them and just throwing it, because what they're going to do is they'll put them handcuffs on and throw in the back of the car. All right. No. How long you stay in the back of the car while they're still on scene depends entirely on what you're being arrested for. But let's say it's a DUI. A DUI, they're going to stay on scene until enough officers arrive, secure the scene. They're going to have to tow your car if nobody's there to be able to drive it away. And then we make sure most of those things are sorted out before they transport you. and you're going to be transported by what we're going to call a transport officer. So the transport officer know whichever car you're in, if you were in the transport vehicle, then we're going to take you from there. If not, they're going to take you out of that car, put in the other car, and now they're going to take you to holding. That's the police department. So they're going to take you to the holding cell.
Avoid the bookings, beloved.
And that's what they're talking about.
R.I.P. Bodega Boys.
Yo, for real. Yo, shout out to the art, yo. So by the time, so you got into booking. So now you're at central booking. Well, not really. That's not really called. But now you're at the police. So now you're gone from wherever you were to the police station. You are not at jail yet. Mm-hmm. You are now just in the holding. Well, before you even get inside the thing, wait, hold on, let me think about this. No. They're going to take you into the holding cell. And you might think, okay, I'm in jail now. No, you're not. Your night is just beginning. Because what's going to happen is they're going to be going and collecting other people who had the misfortune of being arrested that night, and they're going to put them together with you to a certain point until somebody's going to come get you, and that someone is going to be the transport from where you are to the county jail, right? And you'd think that process might be simple. No, not necessarily, because you might get taken outside of either the police department and separated and organized there, or you're going to be put into the paddy wagon, transported over to the jail, and you're going to be put outside in like a cage. It's all real. Inside like a cage, and they're going to separate you with hand behind your back. Still, usually by this time the handcuffs have now come off and you're in zip ties or something like that. It could be handcuffs. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. And then you're going to stay out there for a certain period of time, and then you're going to finally make it into the jail. When you make it into the jail, now you're going to be put in a different holding cell, but now you're in jail, and the processing has just begun.
Wow.
And when you get into the holding cell, you're being housed with everyone that got arrested for everything. That means DUI,
murder.
Murder might be different because there might be other circumstances, and but it's very likely it could be homicides, robberies, you name it. We're all in this cell together. Remember when they put the handcuffs on you the first time? I was like, do you remember, they're going to shut up? If you didn't shut up before and not decide you was going to remain silent, let me just give you another word of advice, because this is why it's so good to be able to do the podcast, man. When you get to jail now, hear what I say. Just keep to yourself and keep your mouth shut. Do not, especially then, don't talk about your case to anybody, because people they're willing to listen, because they might be facing a whole heap of time, and your little confession might be enough for them to say, you know what? I got somebody I can give you. You know what I mean? If you can shave off a couple years off this life sentence, you know what I'm saying, bro? Because, homeboy in the cell next to me.
He killed Jimmy.
Damn.
I don't know.
You were in that cell, huh? But yeah, so keeping it 100, yo. Don't say anything. Not only will this protect you in terms of getting another, getting a snitch, but also, these aren't necessarily the nicest people that you're amongst. And the number one way to avoid trouble is to keep your mouth shut, keep to yourself, stay humble, and just be quiet. More times than not, most people are not going to bother you. If you start to act up, I assure you, somebody is going to make sure you stop, right? So you're not done yet. While you're in this jail cell, they're also while you're in this holding cell with everybody, they're going to come get you, right, at certain periods of time, and you're going to have to get medically screened. They might have psychological screening. They're going to check your prior history, a whole bunch of stuff, the whole process. And then finally, maybe 6 to 7 hours in,
6 to 7 hours.
You are now processed, but you are now in the holding cell, because according to the law now, you remember, say you have to be brought before a magistrate within 24 hours. So you're supposed to have your hearing, that's supposedly that phone call. Oh, and that's true, by the way. You do get a phone call. People wonder if you get a phone call. You do get a phone call. You're not as entitled to it as you might think, but you do get it. So you do get the opportunity to make the phone call. So millennials and Gen Y. Is it Gen X? What
It's not millennials because we grew up with like we had the caller IDs. Like,
did I touch a nerve?
Clearly, like, did you touch a nerve? You're always trying to like.
They got these youngsters.
Anyways.
You have to remember one phone number. Remember one phone number. Remember the phone number of the person that can get you out of jail.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, that might be me. But I mean, in reality.
Better call Saul. Oh, never mind.
We're not advertising for Saul, bro. All right, listen. No. In reality, unless you have that lawyer retainer and that lawyer also happens to know a bondsman that he works with on such a level that the bondsman will just say, oh, I know homeboy will definitely honor this bond. Yeah, so that's not going to happen. So what you really need to do is know somebody who can actually have the resources to get the bond and call Greg. If we're in Breaking Bad, then Saul would be fine. But it's 877 Greg Law. It's not 877 Saul.
Anyways, whatever.
Saul Goodman.
Well, I was gonna say 877 Greg Law, and then I was like, better call Saul.
No, but if it's 877 Greg Law, then it'll be all good, man.
It's all good, man.
That's what I'm saying. All right, so finally after all of that, then you're processed, then you're back in the holding cell, and only after your bond hearing will you actually really get assigned to a jail cell if you don't get out.
If you don't get out.
So that's 24 hours basically. So you're going to be processing for at least 24 hours. I can say in Broward County it's
that sucks.
Little bit faster, but not by much.
Do they feed you?
Actually, sometimes it's slow. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, I think you know exactly what they feed you. What do you think they feed you? It's exactly what you think it is.
Like a sandwich?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
What kind of sandwich?
Oh, I think you told me was it ham and cheese or some shit?
Ham?
It's not ham? Ham?
No,
like
girl.
Bologna or
this ain't
like
the Holiday Inn.
The Holiday
Inn. Bro. No, man, we're getting bologna. We're getting bologna and government cheese, bro.
Oh, God.
That I don't know if it's government cheese, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's Kraft singles. Be. But is it singles? I don't know.
It's just American cheese, which is horrible.
You know what I want to know?
Which is not even cheese, by the way.
I need to know this.
Hot take on cheese. But anyways, continue.
I need to know this. I need to know in the comments. I need to know this for real. Am I the only lawyer that's ever eaten like the bologna and cheese sandwich and been like, it's not so bad? I mean, am I the only one that's ever?
Because you're on the other side of it.
No, I know. I mean, like, I don't have to eat it every day, but I mean, like, there have been times, like, you know.
Oh, when you're really hungry, yeah. Of course.
When I be working really late in the jails, because I be working for my clients, and then the staff be giving me an extra bologna sandwich.
Insert cap here.
That's not. No, it's no cap, bro. That's no cap. I would never lie about that. Are you kidding me? Okay. Are you kidding me? Dude.
All right.
Bologna sandwiches be slapping.
I thought you had an office that you can work out of.
They can't come to me if they're in jail.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I gotta go see them. And sometimes, I mean, listen, to be honest with you, if you're gonna go to the jail, why see one client? See them all.
Okay.
You want like one of your clients to be walking around and be like, oh man, I saw my lawyer today. It's like, man, we got the same lawyer. He came here today. Man, he got you want to.
Sounds very Saul-ish.
You want to get me stabbed? Oh, speaking of Better Call Saul, there's a lot of stuff about that show that's frighteningly accurate.
I love that show. So good.
Yeah, no, but for real. All right, so DUI. So now you have
Driving while twisted.
Driving while twisted. It's driving under the influence of anything.
Yes.
Don't do it. All right. So now you understand what can happen if you get arrested. You understand this whole process of jail. Now let's talk about DUI and whether or not you can beat that thing. The answer to that question is yes. And the reason I can say that is because I have beat every kind of DUI. Well, that's not true. I can't really say I beat every kind of DUI. I don't know. Maybe there are other kinds. But I've won all kinds of DUIs. What do I mean by all kinds? DUIs where people have refused the breath test and they refused to give roadsides. DUIs where they did the roadsides, but they refused the breath test.
When you say roadside, you mean the like the sobriety field test thing?
Oh, never call them tests. They're called exercises.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you exactly what those things are. And I've won it where they've done everything, including give the breath test, and the breath test shows a positive reading, and they still come back not guilty. And the reason is because, I mean, look.
Do tell.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a pod, man. DUI is based on some really amateurish, I don't want to say junk science. It's not junk science. It's just 1980s science. Is probably the best way to put it. And the way, like, I'll give you for example, and then we'll talk about these roadsides and what have you. But like, think about a test tube, and think about like 100 test tubes. Yeah. And probably in your mind, every single one of those test tubes look exactly the same. And then imagine that you're going to mix in that test tube a solution of water and alcohol. And then imagine in your mind a machine that's going to measure the amount of alcohol. I'm just going to wait until you're done with your...
It's so good, my pineapples.
No, I mean, people want to hear about this, but pineapples are so delicious.
I wasn't... Go ahead. Yeah. Like, oh, my God.
All right. So
Let me live. Anyways.
Imagine you have all these test tubes, right? And there's a machine that measures how much alcohol is in the air above the water and the water and the alcohol that's mixed in the test tube, the air above it. You're going to have a machine that's going to measure how much, the concentration of alcohol in that air. And imagine that in those scientific circumstances, it gets it wrong sometimes. Now imagine that, replace all those test tubes with people. And you tell me if the same amount of alcohol in you and the same amount of alcohol in me and the same amount of alcohol in a little person and the same amount of alcohol in Shaquille O'Neal is going to have the same effect on everybody.
On the blood, yeah.
And somehow one magical machine, because it has to be magical as far as I'm concerned, is going to be able to tell that, oh, well, he's drunk.
Mm-hmm. And some people have intolerances that they get drunk maybe a little faster than others. So
exactly. So here's where it gets really interesting. Remember I told you, like, in the beginning of this, I said, like, what they're trying to measure to see if your normal faculties are impaired. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have you do these exercises. You could never call them tests because I've never done a test that requires me to do this. Okay, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
So that's why you don't call it a test, or?
I don't call it a test because it's not a test.
Okay.
It's not a test. It's never a pass-fail.
Okay.
Nobody's ever going to have you do something like that and say, oh, well, based on this, you failed, you're drunk. Because the reality is these things, normal faculties,
so
right?
So it's not a pass-fail if they ask you to do it? How do they, what's the scoring?
It's an evaluation.
Is there a scoring?
There's scoring and all of that, but I want you to think about this. Normal faculties. I want to test if you can operate normally. So what I need you to do is to close your eyes, hold your head back, put your hands out, and then I'm going to say either right or left. And then if I say right, you put your hand out and you bring the tip of your finger to the tip of your nose, and you do not open your eyes, and then you bring it back out, and then you bring it down. And if you do anything, any part of that wrong, including lifting your hand up, bringing it out, bringing it into the tip of the nose, then bringing it back out to the side, and then bringing it down. If I just did it like this, and then, oh, well, you did it wrong, so I'm going to make a note, probably drunk. To test normalcy. To test to see if you're normal. That's what...
I'm definitely not normal, yeah.
That is what is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, you know what? We're going to see if you can, you have the ability to walk around normally. And the way we're going to do that is to make you walk around the most abnormal way possible by putting a line in the road and having you walk along it heel to toe while putting your hand. It is the most ridiculous thing to test. But you know what? I say it's ridiculous only because that's how it looks. And we're supposed to test normalcy by doing the most abnormal things.
Right.
And then they're going to say there are actual tests that they can do, except that those tests, sometimes they come back positive, but they come back positive for things that have nothing to do with alcohol, including the bloody machine. So, I don't want to give everything away, but I clearly have a disdain for the Intoxilizer 8, whatever version.
Breathalyzer?
Yeah, intoxicator is like 8,500, 8,800. Who cares? 8,000? I don't know. Whatever number they want to put in it. I'm pretty sure your iPhone is like, the iPhone technology compared to the technology on an intoxilizer is like the difference between ants building a dome and your iPhone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that difference between an Atari video game and
So you're saying
Final Fantasy VIII.
In a way, it can be bullshit?
In a way, not in a way, there is absolute defenses to DUIs across the board, no matter what it is they've claimed have gone wrong. Now, having said that, here's where it gets tough. If there's video of you stumbling around looking like you're drunk, I'm going to tell you, the jury's going to see it, and it's going to be really hard to prove that you're not stumbling around.
Yeah,
drunk.
or if you like actually hurt someone or something like that, then for sure, like.
Well, yeah, I did have a case like that, and I'm not saying that because I've done it both ways. I've had a case where I took it to trial with somebody who was really badly injured, and won. I wanted to. I beat everybody. I beat the state attorney. I beat the judge. The case got dismissed on a speedy violation because people couldn't count it right. That's a true story.
Count?
They couldn't count. They flew the witness in from out of state to trial, but they were too late. They were too late, and nobody knew except me. And that was like one of the most difficult things I've ever done, because imagine you're friends with everybody, but I only represent one guy, and that's the defendant. So I might like the judge, I might like the state attorney, we might all get along, but when it came right down to it, I'm chalking up the W. I'm not trying to take a L because we're friends. I'm taking a W every single time. So they added the stuff wrong, and I was just like, oh my God, they made a mistake, and I won an attack. But I also did that before. But what I tell you is, like, I've had clients who've recognized the dangers in going to trial when one of the victims is really badly injured, and there was a case where my client took a plea. I mean, I don't have any problem with him taking the plea. I was like, dude, I understand. Because the victim showed up with literal pins going through his knee. And he was in a wheelchair, and I was like, bro, he's going to be sitting there the whole time.
Yeah,
The whole trial is going to be sitting there, and they're going to be looking at him, not listening to anything, just looking at those pins going like, and I was like, plea might not be so bad. But, that's the reality of the thing. That's why I like to keep it real, because, people want to think like, oh, we'll just get everything dismissed and you win everything. No. Sometimes you got to take a plea. Sometimes you got to take a plea. And sometimes taking a plea is a good thing. Sometimes taking a plea is a good thing. Not every time, and more times than not, I would tell you to fight. But you know who you are. You know what you did. I'm just kidding. It's not about what you did. It's about the evidence against you.
Right.
Yeah.
Always.
All right, so defending DUIs, it's definitely something that can be done, but you don't want to be in that position. And just like some of the things you're saying, you don't want to have a situation where you have people that are injured, because it can affect your trial if they're coming to injured. And they make really good witnesses, although eyewitness testimony is not reliable. But anyway, that's another show. But they make very good witnesses, at least in the eyes of the jury. So
what if you just were driving and maybe your passenger was like drinking, but you weren't? You got pulled over.
I think you're all good.
Okay.
I think you're all good. The passenger's drinking and you're not drinking. I think they call that designated driver.
Okay.
I think that's the most responsible thing you do, and I think that's what you're supposed to do.
Isn't that still open container though, or whatever? Or
Why is your car so wildin', man?
I'm just wondering. Like,
now, if you had an open container, it still would be open container, and they'd like to charge the driver, but that opens you up to the idea of them going, step out. Because they're like, that's the passenger's alcohol.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, let me just make sure you're all right. Speaking of which, let me tell you something. I need to talk about this keeping your mouth shut thing, especially as it goes to DUI. And, I mean, when I'm saying I'm talking to my people, I'm really talking to my people. Y'all be so polite and trying to make the officer feel good and answering all his questions. This is not Jamaica. I'm sorry to tell you, it's not. It's it's not going to go well for you. These people are not your friends in this context. They're there to do a job, and their job is to get as much evidence from you. And that evidence seeking starts when you hear that on your window. That's when they started gathering the evidence, right at that moment. So when they start tapping, it's evidence gathering time.
Yep.
If you see, there's a practical thing to giving advice on things like this. So what I'd want to tell you is like, I don't want to wind on my window. I'll just start stuffing stuff to the thing. But the reality is you do that, you're probably going to end up arrested. And if you are DUI, they will find out, and you will, they'll probably do a blood draw on the fact that, it's going to go sideways.
Blood draw.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. There's only certain criteria in which they could draw blood from you forcibly if you're a DUI, and that can happen. But what I'm saying to you is like,
sound of that.
if they're tapping on the window, one of the first things they're going to want to ask you is, hey, you know why I stopped you? Let me translate that for y'all who don't know. What that question really is, hey, want to give me a good reason to write in my report as to why I stopped you? Because you just admitted to it. Hey, you know why I stopped you? I was speeding.
No.
Thank you, Joe. Just needed to make sure I could put speeding and that you admitted to it. No, they have probable cause for the stop because you just gave it to them. Wow. Just like that. So here's my response to, do you know why I stopped you? This is the best response.
I don't know. What?
It looks like this. They got body cams on. They know if you're talking or not. And it's very hard to smell the odor of an alcoholic beverage, which is the first part of the police report they're going to write, because that's the first thing they're going to smell when you open your mouth and go like, I'm fine, officer. How was your day? You like that Hennessy on my breath? Right. So,
Gross.
Your answer is, where are you coming from? You don't know where you're coming from? You know where you're going?
Wouldn't that piss a cop off and they want like
so this is the balancing test, right? You want to be polite as much as you can be, but understand, like, look, guided from this. If you, look, let's stop it is time to cut the fuckery. What I mean is, let's not BS each other. Y'all know when when it's fucked up. You know when the cops are behind you and like, oh shit. When it's oh shit, that's when you start operating a little bit differently because you are fucked. You know you are, so let's not bullshit. If you're fine, do you want to stop? If you haven't drank all day, hey, do I stopped you? No, officer. I was just going along having a pleasant talk as much as you want. Then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, well, don't. But
you don't.
But when things are messed up, don't do that. Don't do that. Just like, and you're like, you're being difficult. It ain't gonna go well for you, most likely. You're probably going to go to jail regardless. Accept it. Accept it. You know what I said? I didn't say, hey, this is the moment when they're gonna check to see if they're gonna arrest you. Yeah. I said this was the moment they started collecting the evidence. Brother, you're going to jail. So you're going to jail now. So here's what you're going to do. You're not going to give them anything. And you're going to try and remain still as much as possible. No, I would not tell you to refuse the roadsides. I can tell you, though, it's something that people do. If they don't have the roadsides, they ain't got the evidence of the roadsides. All I got is somebody who just seems to be like sitting there be like, Oh, dude, there's this, what show was that? The Wire. The Wire, they arrested this dude, and every time they asked him a question, like, peanut butter jelly? Like, I saw that, I'm like, man, that's the perfect way to answer a police officer. Like, if you're going to jail, like, hey, what's your name? Peanut butter jelly. Where you live at? Peanut butter jelly. Just like every answer. Like, that's beautiful because what they're going to write in the report, they got nothing.
Peanut butter jelly.
So, you know they're actually collecting evidence. Don't talk. Don't say anything because they're going to smell it. That's going to give the basis to pull you out and say, hey, I smell alcohol, and we're going to do the roadsides and all of this stuff. If you know you're lit, I mean, look, I could tell you could do the roadsides and you can feel confident in yourself because, I know that Henny be making you real confident. You know what I mean? That champagne.
Anything is possible.
You don't want to go with Vanya and have Vanya in the passenger seat because she ain't going to tell you no.
I don't drink Henny. You know what I drink?
All right. All right.
That Don Julio.
All right, that DJ.
That good tequila.
All right, I hear you. We're coming up on, we're just 2 months away from Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, Cinco de Drinko. Yeah, come out with me, guys. Right. Pull up.
Wonderful. So
have a good time.
Where was I? What were we talking
Doesn't matter. We're talking about Cinco de Drinko. Oh,
all right.
We should send out some tips on that day, too.
I think we should go live that day. We should go live from the craft house. Oh, by the way, shout out to the craft house, is where we shoot from. So it's my very good friend DJ GQ. Shout out to GQ.
Let them know.
I'm gonna hit the horns, bro. Every time we say DJ GQ, it should, just as a thing, you should actually hit horns.
Pyrotechnics, everything. It should. Just
but
crazy.
but GQ has graciously allowed us to shoot all our stuff here.
That's right.
Which is why we get IPAs.
Free beer, which I have restrained from drinking because I didn't want to be burping into the microphone the whole time. So, because beer makes me do that.
Good thing we don't drink.
Yeah, and then I have to drive.
Oh no, I'm Ubering out there. Forget that shit. All right.
Anyways.
All right. So okay, so they start gathering the evidence right at the moment they start tapping their glass. So you really
drink responsibly. So it's okay to. But anyways, continue.
Oh, I don't know where.
Sorry, the blood alcohol. No, that's what I was thinking about. What did you just say? I just did.
So anyway, so all right, so tapping the glass and then
collecting the evidence.
Okay, so now the roadsides. All right. The reality is that the roadside exercises, and there's a few. There's the walk and turn. That's where you walk, a certain number of steps that way on a line, and you turn around, a 3-step turn, and you walk back the other way. You have the finger to nose, which I kind of went over before. You have this thing called the horizontal gaze nystagmus, which is a pretty cool thing. When alcohol is in your system, if you look at a point that if you keep your face, level and pointed in one direction, and you have your eyes look at about a 45-degree angle from, let's say, your nose to the back of your head, you can imagine that's a 90-degree angle. If you look about right here, if you have alcohol in your system, your eyeballs are going to involuntarily just kind of flicker or bounce to the side, and that's a nystagmus. And the police, so when you see them having you follow the thing with the pen, that's actually what they're looking for. The problem is some people just have a nystagmus, they just have it, just as that's how they were born. But there are all these, and there's some other ones. And I mean, look, what I can tell you is, you want some really bad advice.
Oh boy.
But it's so real.
Bad advice. Okay.
Well, it's bad advice, but it's actually really good advice. I just feel bad giving it because, I mean, look, I'm trying to tell you, don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive. Also,
drink responsibly.
If you were an expert at doing roadside exercises, because you can just Google them, exactly what they are, and you can get really good at them. You can just get really good at them. And they're going to videotape them. And can you imagine if you're really good at them?
That's a whole other level of commitment.
That is. Also, if you're going to do that, you probably need to go to the AA classes.
Literally.
Probably.
Yeah. No, the meetings and sit down and yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I mean, I will tell you this, because I do want to have the other side of the DUI discussion. I've represented a lot of people who demanded to plead guilty. Didn't want any deals. Didn't care what I was saying. Didn't care about the defenses. They wanted to plead guilty. And they were grateful to the officer that pulled them over. And I think that's probably one thing that maybe you'd never hear about when people get arrested. Sometimes, as much as we talk about police officers and everything, I've had a lot of people tell me that officer probably saved my life either that night or the next night or the future night, because that officer took them off of a trajectory which was going to end their lives, meaning that the drinking really had gotten out of control and gotten so bad that they had gotten this intoxicated and was this drunk, and an officer had to stop them. And but for that happening, they may not have been, they could have killed themselves or somebody else. And I think it's just, important for people to know that there's a lot of people that I've represented that they just wanted to accept responsibility for what they did. And I mean, we still talk to, I still talk a lot to the clients, and they're much better off, right? I mean, they don't regret it. They look at it as not necessarily a low point, but let's say a starting point in their lives, because it kind of helped them to move beyond that life that they were heading down and put them on the right track. So when I tell people, like, really, you don't want to get down there, because if you actually hit that point, like I said, if you're to the point where you're practicing roadside just in case the cops be tripping, right? You're probably in a bad place. And as a criminal defense attorney, I'll tell you, you can't do this work without having or coming into contact with mental health issues. And I will tell you that I have never come across a case that doesn't have someone who is dependent on a substance that doesn't also have a mental health issue. And I can tell you, whenever the mental health issue, well, at least in my experiences, I'm not saying so, when a mental health issue has been resolved, you've seen improvement in across the board. So sometimes, the substance abuse is just covering up something else.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I wanted to say, I've seen people go through that coming to God moment, and I think that happened to someone that was close to me. Like, they would just they would go out everywhere and take their car, and, like, they know, like, the consequences, but do it anyways. And something really bad happened. It was an accident, like, really bad. And then, that was, like, their coming to God thing. Like, I don't know if, like, it resulted in a DUI. I'm not really sure.
Did anybody die?
No.
Anybody get hurt?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. It is, like, one of those things where, like, you want to take responsibility, because it's not just that. You're taking responsibility for all the other shit you were probably doing that led up to that behavior and that led up to that night that you just, like, blacked out and something bad happened.
Yeah. So, it's all fun and games until people get hurt. So here's what I want to kind of sum it all up, as it were, run this thing down. So if you're not from here, I mean, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're in Florida, well, it's not going to be as easy in terms of, like, public transportation and, buses, trains, and things like that. But there are other options. There is Uber, and there's cool things, like, where you can they even have Uber parking lots. So if you just want to Uber to drive to a parking lot and then Uber into, like, Wynwood, because Wynwood sometimes
that's awesome. I would do that.
But the idea is that in all things you really have to stand up for your rights. And sometimes that means if you're in jeopardy of being arrested, that means that this is the point where you have to find that courage to be able to say, hey, listen, I want a police officer. I want an attorney. I need somebody to represent me before I answer any questions. It's something you're going to have to just be willing to say. And you're going to have to just be like, listen, the psychology of this, but I don't think people understand. When you do something bad, you want to confess, That's the psychology of it. By the way, we get trained. God bless the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. I worked there for many years, and I got some of the best training I've ever had. But there's this natural instinct to want to confess. You do something bad, you want to talk about it. And let me tell you, the police officers know that only too well. And why do you think they're handing people Coca-Colas and McDonald's and all them fools just there? I'm your friend in your time of need, bro. Just tell me, just cough it up, bro. Just get it off your chest. Just get it. You been watching them shows? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have that feeling. You have to go swallow that down, Swallow that down and don't say nothing. Because the reality is, it's just like the comedian said, the police are just like certain women, right? They'll have all the evidence, but they still want the confession. You know what I mean? They still want the confession. These are not your friends. If you don't stand up for that right, you will lose it. And you know how many clients, and I hate to say it, it's mostly Jamaicans. It's all Jamaicans. It's all Jamaicans that say this one thing. Oh, but the officer was so nice. And I'm like, so nice. I know you're facing felony charges, brother. And you're facing felony charge with this confession. You better hope to this motion to suppress work. Fortunately, well, they have, or we managed to get a deal out of the just filing of the motion. But the reality is you don't want to put yourself in that situation because the only reason you get a deal is because the case is difficult without your confession. So it's your confession that made the whole thing really hard. So maybe you need to stand up for yourself. And that goes for even like if you realize what it is, you can feel sorry about everything. And you can always go and plead guilty. Like I said, I've had a lot of clients that felt that was the right thing to do. But I don't think that's the right thing to do right in that moment. At least not if you want to have an easier time trying to resolve this criminal issue. Because I will tell you, the time when they can draw your blood is usually in situations like accidents, for example. If you were in an accident.
Oh, and you're like unconscious or something, right? Or...
It can even get more complicated. You know, I would tell you, like, that is so specific and complicated that I wouldn't even want to say anything about it unless I was going to actually have a show about it. Because it really... Here's what I'll tell you about that. God bless the nurses that stand up for the rights of people and deny police officers who do not have a warrant or probable cause the ability to take blood, because as far as I can think of constitutionally, that is just as far as you can go. Once I'm gone inside your body, I mean, if you don't have that right, I don't know what right you can possibly have.
Right.
All right, so you get the point. Stand up for your rights, and then you have a better chance. Also, don't drink and drive. But if you do, just remember the evidence collection starts.
Just know your limit, yeah. Most importantly.
Yeah, and just call Uber, man. Call Uber. Or have a friend like Vanya who doesn't drink at all.
Yeah, just roll with me. Because I don't drink and drive. I smoke and fly.
Jesus. That's next week. This was drink twisted? Driving while twisted. Next week is smoking while, what's it?
We were only talking about alcohol. I thought we were covering all of it. But we did.
But it just made it sound so good.
I would like to mention, well... I don't know. It was just daylight savings time. But anyways, so I was at like this dinner party thing. And I smoked a bunch of weed. And driving back, I was like, it hit me that I was so fucking I was tired and I was high. So it was like one of those things that was like, wow, I wish I was not driving right now. But I realized
the next episode we have to do. Just based on that, the next episode, because I want to remind myself.
Driving while you're tired?
Self-snitching. After that whole video and self-snitching, like people be self-snitching on the gram, she be self-snitching on podcasts.
So corny. Just let me tell my story.
Joking.
Just let me tell my story. Like, why do you have to like make it a whole thing? Okay, and Jesus Christ, you had the mic for that what? The whole hour? I'm supposed to be the co-host. Like, just let me tell my story in peace.
No, I'll let you go.
Self-snitching. Yes, I'm self-snitching because I want to tell a story.
Go ahead.
It's all right. You killed the vibe.
I did kill the vibe. All right. So anyway, so what was I saying? So remember, stand up for your rights, and odds are it will be a whole lot better. And until next time, this has been the Lawyer Bizniz Podcast. By the way, let me know if you want me to put these things up for sale, because I might just put them up for sale. Merch time, right? The Lawyer Bizniz. All right.
What happened to the mug? The opposing counsel's tears.
It's at home. Okay. I'll bring it back.
I mean, I was just wondering. Because I know you had it like for one.
Yeah, but my person who keeps a hold of all the props and stuff. Yeah, she ain't be bringing all the props back when she's supposed to. So
I don't have that prop.
That's why we have to diversify the prop handling because of that.
Yo.
Is that water or vodka?
Yes.